You own California rentals and the rent clears each month, thank God. Yet every time you read about a new rental lawsuit in the headlines, it makes your gut twist. I've seen owners who thought everything was fine until a single claim or accident put not just one property, but everything they own on the line. In California, you can do almost everything right as a landlord and still lose everything if your legal foundation isn't solid. That is why today I'm going to walk you through the 3 biggest legal mistakes I see rental property owners make, and more importantly, how to avoid them so you can protect what you've worked so hard to build. Hi, I'm Ali Talai, a trust and asset protection attorney and founder of Talai Law Offices. I recently started making videos on social media with the goal of providing educational content to help individuals and families make smarter decisions about their estate planning, asset protection planning, and allow them a way to preserve their wealth for many generations to come. I am really passionate about helping clients create estate plans that protects their legacy and is not just some sort of document that provides distributions. Estate planning is full of legal nuances that can impact your family and your financial future. And if you want to dive deeper, I invite you to join my free webinar, Avoiding the 5 Biggest Estate Planning Mistakes. You can register at talailaw.com, that is TALAI law.com, under the event page, or just click the link in the description below. If you own rental properties in California, the difference often comes down to 3 critical mistakes I see property owners make over and over. And these aren't small oversights. These are portfolio-ending errors that can cost you everything you have worked to build. California is one of the most tenant-friendly states in the country, and the legal landscapes for landlords gets more complex every year. And you just cannot afford to get this wrong. All right, mistake number 1, mixing personal and business assets. The biggest mistake I see rental property owners make is treating their real estate investments like personal assets. You buy a property, great. You put it in your personal name, not so great. You collect rent, you pay expenses from your personal checking account, again, not so great. It feels simple, right? Yeah, I don't have to do a whole lot, but it's actually creating a massive liability exposure that most people don't realize until it's too late. Here's what happens when you don't separate your assets properly. Let's say you own 3 rental properties, all in your personal name, and one of the tenants that you have in one of these properties end up filing a lawsuit claiming that you were negligent. The reality of it is they're not coming after just that one property, the property that they resided in. They're going to go after everything you own, the other rental properties that you have, your personal residence. Yes, they'll try to go after that too, your saving accounts, your retirement accounts, everything becomes fair game. The solution isn't just about creating legal entities, though that's part of it, and we're going to talk about that. It's about maintaining what we call the corporate veil, which means you need to have separate bank accounts for each property or entity. You need to maintain proper records. You need to avoid what lawyers call commingling of funds. When you pay for property repairs with your personal credit cards, or when you transfer rental income directly to your personal bank account without proper documentations, you are creating vulnerabilities that good plaintiffs' attorneys will exploit. Mistake number 2 is inadequate insurance coverage. The second mistake is thinking your basic landlord policy is enough protection. Most property owners I've seen, they buy the minimum coverage their lender requires, and then they'll never really go back and review the policy. And this is like bringing a knife to a gunfight in California's litigation environment. Standard landlord policies typically provide $1 to $2 million in liability coverage. That might sound like a lot, but consider this. The median home price in California is over $800,000. If you own multiple properties, you are already looking at assets worth several $1,000,000. One serious injury claim can easily exceed your coverage limits. But here's what's even worse. Most landlord policies have significant exclusions that property owners don't understand until they need that particular coverage. For example, discrimination claims, habitability issues, certain type of environmental damages, these are often excluded or have separate lower limits in these policies. I have seen property owners with $2 million policies discover that their policy only has a $50,000 coverage for a specific claim they're facing at that time. Well, let's talk about some solution now for the insurance issue. I believe what you need to do is to make sure you have layered insurance policies and protection. You want to obviously have adequate primary coverage, but you also need an umbrella coverage that extends beyond your primary limits. For most rental property owners, I recommend at least a $5 million in total coverage, and often more depending on what is their portfolio size and what sort of risk they have. Putting all your properties in one basket. The third mistake I see far too often is landlords thinking they are protected because they formed an LLC, but then they put all of their properties into that one single LLC. On paper, you might feel like you have checked the asset protection box. It must be a very small asset protection box that you checked if that's all you did. In reality, you've just put your entire portfolio in the line, again, as if it was under your personal name. Here's why. If you own 5 rental properties in one LLC and something goes wrong at just one of the properties, say a tenant suffers some sort of injury, claims negligence, files a lawsuit, the lawsuit won't be limited to that one property because all your other properties are owned under that same LLC. All the properties will become liable for that particular injury. I have seen landlords learn this lesson the hard way. One owned multiple apartment buildings in LA under a single LLC. When an issue arose at one of the property, suddenly every building in that LLC became part of the risk. Instead of one property being threatened, his whole portfolio was in jeopardy simply because everything was tied together. The solution is what I call layered entity protection. Often that means placing each property into its own LLC, then holding those LLCs under a parent holding company or a trust. This way, if one property faces a claim, the damage is contained and the other properties stay safe. California courts respect this kind of structuring when it's done properly. If you take shortcuts or worse, rely on a one LLC fits all approach, you're leaving yourself wide open to portfolio ending exposure. These mistakes don't just cost money, they can destroy your entire investment strategy. I have seen property owners lose millions in equity because they held properties in their personal name, carried minimal insurance, or put everything into one single LLC. One lawsuit, one accident, or one financial shock can force the sale of the properties at fire sale prices, wiping out years of work. The reality of it is that the financial impact is only part of the story. Poor planning consumes time and energy, which you could be spending on growing your portfolio. It creates stress that affects your health, your relationships, and it can make it harder for your family to step in if something happens to you, leaving them scrambling through probate court instead of smoothly managing what you've built. But here's what most frustrating. These mistakes are all completely preventable. With the right legal structure, adequate insurance, and properly layered plan, you can protect your assets, shield your family, and sleep soundly knowing your rental portfolio is secure. The key here is understanding that real estate investing in California isn't just about finding good properties and collecting rent. It's about operating a business in a complex legal environment. You need to think like a business owner, not just a property owner. Knowing about these mistakes is just the first step. The next question you need to answer is how to structure your properties for maximum protection. Should you put your rental properties in a trust and an LLC or both? And should each property stand alone or be part of a layered plan? These decisions will determine whether your assets are protected or exposed, whether your portfolio is set up for long-term efficiency, and whether you can pass your wealth to your children without the unnecessary risk. The next video is about should you put your rentals in a trust, LLC, or both? And it is essential if you want to protect your rental property portfolio properly. I will walk you through the legal and tax implications of each choice, show you how to avoid the most common structuring mistakes, and give you a framework for making the right decision for your specific situation. Your rental property portfolio represents years of hard work and financial sacrifice. Don't let legal mistakes destroy what you've built. Watch the next video, and I'll see you over there, here.